back, former CIA analyst Lisa Ruth. Let's dig deeper into the events of this weekend past in Paris, France. This just came out of nowhere. Driver rams a vehicle into pedestrians in Dijon, reportedly shouting, "God is great" in Arabic as he did so. There apparently was another individual who walked into a police department, started shooting. They killed him before he actually was able to fatally wound anybody there. So we've got two attacks that seem to have the connection of Islamic terrorism here. But how do we approach this from an intel side of things by going, wait a minute, back up, we don't know if these are just copycats and the so-called lone wolf?
Right. This is, looking at this, the first thing, obviously, Intel's going to be on this, looking back through social media. We're going to be looking back
Usual
through
suspects.
all that kind of thing. But I really think one of my concerns, we've got these two guys. We've got Sydney. We've got even the guy in New York who said he was retaliating. But the problem, what we're seeing here with ISIS, and you and I have talked about this, how scary is it? Think about this. They don't have to actively recruit. They put this stuff out on social media. It sparks something in people who are probably not thinking very clearly. In the France case, they said he appears to have been a mental patient, for example. No, not further defined. But you're talking about something that sparks with people. This gives them something to rally around. And even more dangerous, it gives them, these are people who previously were not undertaking violent acts. Well, Sydney, certainly he was. All of a sudden, these people are under this ISIS, this jihadist umbrella, and they are out there and being violent and taking action. From a law enforcement standpoint, this is very, very difficult.
Okay, do we need to get rid of this phrase lone wolf? Seriously, because we hear it and it almost comes up as a, hey, don't worry about it, it's just one guy. I think that's a false sense of security that we keep pushing to people because, in essence, they're not really alone. They're being pushed by something or someone.
No, you're exactly right. The idea of lone wolf makes it sound like, oh, it was just this one thing. Well, it's not this one thing. This is someone operating under an umbrella of radical Islam, all of these people. And you can't, yes, they're acting independently, but yet there's this ideology that's pushing them, and that's what makes it dangerous.
With regard then to other terrorism around the world, Cuba now is celebrating. I mean, Raul Castro basically is taking a victory lap at this point, saying we beat the Americans, we got them to come in here. There's talk that there might be a chance to get fugitives out of Cuba who have been sought by America. I would imagine that's got to be pretty good fodder for the U.S. intel community because there's got to be some people in their way they want. Plus, if Cuba does open up, wouldn't that make it a little bit easier for us to infiltrate them with our agents?
You would think. First, I will say I'll be very surprised if we get fugitives out of Cuba. This is now, although if you look back again, last year, the FBI did go into Cuba and arrest there was a woman who was on the list of most wanted, and Cuba gave her back. But in terms of Cuban fugitives, not likely. Even Latin American fugitives, not likely. There are certain things that the Castros still are not going to play by U.S. rules. Now, once the Castros are gone, it's a whole different ballgame. But until then, I think we're going to tread very carefully. Now, when you look at infiltrating the Cubans, and I think I mentioned, Brian Littell, who's an expert in Miami, wrote a great book, and I can tell you this is absolutely true. The only country in the world where the United States has never had a unilateral penetration, in other words, a source who is actually a source, is Cuba. Every Cuban agent we've ever had has been a double agent. Everyone. We've never had one honest source. So when we're talking about infiltrating Cuba, it's kind of an interesting thing. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
30 seconds left here, and isn't it fair to say that when you talk about when the Castros leave, we have to then take into consideration those who have been empowered by the Castro family, those who have grown up in it. So it's not as if Raul Castro dies and all of a sudden, bing, we're capitalist.
No, and in fact, last thought on this, there are two people in the Cuban government right now below Castro, much younger, who are far more radical than Raul. There could be danger still around the corner here.
And why would they want to give up their homes, their cars, their planes, their money, and they'll still make it work to their bank account? Exactly right. Thanks so much for making us feel all better. Although, still don't worry, your Cuban cigars are fine.
Exactly.
Always a pleasure, Lisa. Thanks so much. Merry Christmas to you and the family.
Merry Christmas to you as well.
We'll see you next year. I'd love to be able to say that. Breaking back with the Sunday Sound Off. Those comments from the news programs you not only need to hear, but will be part of driving conversations this week and beyond. It's all coming up right here, where we question everything. This is MidPoint.